We are continuing with our coverage of the ANC's 54th National Elective Conference, and of course the big policy story of this conference is that the ANC has decided to expropriate land without compensation, but of course there is a rider on it saying that they want it to be sustainable. To understand more about this decision, I'm joined by Enoch Godongwana from the ANC in charge of economic policy. Does this decision mean that the populist view within the ANC has won the day?
No, I don't know what you mean by the populist view. What it does demonstrate is that there's much anger in South Africa about the slow pace of land restitution, land redistribution, and land tenure.
But of course the ANC has plenty of time to move on this. It is your failure, hence the anger from those in society who want the land back.
I would argue that that's correct. Because if you look at the Ready to Govern document we published in 1992, if it even identified what kind of pieces of land that should be a priority for expropriation within the limits of the Constitution. We have not been able to do that fast enough, and therefore people are angry.
But you have never also tested the current constitution, because the argument has been there that you are able to actually go ahead with expropriation.
These delegates that are sitting here do not have the luxury of posing the question why you guys have not tested the constitution. They said, it seems this constitution is constraining you, you must act against it. But they then said, but don't do it irrational. Irrational in such a manner that we can impact on food production, food security, and undermine other sectors.
But do you concede, though, it is the failure of the ANC to implement that we are now at this point?
I've always made the point that there's a disjuncture between policy formulation and policy implementation. In fact, the National Executive has already considered. That's why we had a resolution in the National Executive Committee that says we must create an accountability framework to make sure that the deployees perform in terms of these policies. We reaffirmed that proposition today.
So how would it work? How do you determine what is sustainable?
It's the modalities conference said the National Executive must work out. So I cannot tell you now what sustainability will be. That's a part of the modalities the National Executive has got to work on.
The EFF, of course, you would need them to pass the constitution. They have said that they're not immediately reacting, but they're waiting for you to come to them. Should they expect a call from the Luthuli House anytime soon?
Not anytime soon, because the conference has said the incoming National Executive has got to make sure that it works on the modalities. I don't anticipate anybody making a call until the modalities have been worked out.
This has major implications for an economy that is already in crisis. How do you allay the fears of an investor and concerned about property rights?
An investor who has got property rights, the rider says, without impacting negatively food production, food security, and on other sectors.
But policy uncertainty, which is the one big problem that the ANC...
Uncertainty, if you read this clause quite carefully, there's no policy uncertainty, because we're saying it is going to be done in a certain way without impacting on every property right.
Have you given a deadline to this process?
What we have given a deadline to is January, for thinking carefully about what are the implications, what are the challenges. We'll be having a meeting of experts on the law, on experts on land, on experts on every aspect of the land question, together with the National Executive. Part of that will be to say, how do we work out the modalities?
Obviously, as this process is underway, there's a farmer somewhere who's saying, I want to expand production on my land. He goes to the bank and says to the bank, can you give me a loan? And the bank and the farmer are caught in this process where they don't know what the final steps of the ANC is going to be. What advice are you going to give the two?
My interpretation of the resolution is that we will not do it in such a manner that it impacts on that bank. So there will be no reason, because this should not impact on other sectors. So there will be no reason for the bank to be afraid that giving a loan to this farmer is likely to be
But how do you convince them of that? Because
I'm convinced them because that's what the resolution says. That's what the resolution says. It's not me. It's the resolution of conference. It says what we do with this land, we must not impact negatively on the bank.
what do you say to government? Because tomorrow we might wake up to markets that are just going crazy over this issue. Because there has to be a management of this decision.
Let me just say, I hope that the markets will stabilize, because what we are saying is that this thing will be done in a sustainably without impacting negatively on any of our sectors, including the agricultural sectors itself.
I will be letting you go, but this rider that you keep adding on, is that the compromise that you had to reach because conference was strongly pushing for this expropriation of land, and also you might not have a very patient ANC supporters behind you as you go through what sounds like could be a very long process.
Let me just say, I mean, this discussion was one of the heated debates getting around. It nearly collapsed the conference. So we had to find each other. And I think this is a proposition which is more sensible in the current circumstances.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. That was the ANC's head of economic policy, Enoch Godongwana, joining us here on Politiki. Of course, explaining that it was quite heated, almost collapsing conference. We have seen videos of a scuffle that erupted there, and security people had to be brought in to bring it all under control. But that's where we'll have to leave it for now.